So not being an athlete, or what I'd consider to be an athlete, doing a project like this or a ride like this, I already knew it was going to be beyond my own expectations. So we are at the beautiful Holme Moss. We're about to do quite a few hills today in aid for Alzheimer's Society. Sundowning is a term that is being used to define the irritation and the agitation and deliria that comes as the sun comes down for those that have dementia. The sun is absolutely not down today. We're looking at 25, 26 degrees for most of it. I'm going to be doing reps of Holme Moss. I think it's 36 times, could be 34, could be 38, but we're going to be doing it until we reach the height of Everest. Yeah, that's pretty much the day. Maybe I'll do a double or nothing. My grandparents used to drive me up to the Holme Moss summit. There's a lovely car park at the top with a view of the whole Holme Valley. We would have fish and chips usually from Compos down the road. And it's just one of those memories that kind of sticks with you. So when I was thinking about this project, it didn't feel like there was any other hill that could compare. So the first 4 reps or so, really good, really consistent, was doing it in 20 to 30 minutes each rep, completely in control. And after that, the heat and the pollen count was absolutely off the charts. The combination of being so hot that your heart rate's like climbing through the roof while you can't breathe out of your nose to bring it down, to bring the oxygen to where it needs to be, you're just basically like in a time bomb.
So how's it going?
I like it.
Hard.
Yeah.
The fact that I've still got 20,000 feet to cover.
Oh what, you're only at 9,000 feet?
Yeah. So, we first started learning about dementia from my granddad on my mum's side, where every time that we would go over, we would have the same repetitive conversations. And then we started to notice it breaking down when Annie answered the door first. Annie asked who she was, and then spent our visit asking me where my other girlfriend was, which is always awkward. But then soon after that, his cognitive ability started breaking down, and we decided to put him in a care home. My grandparents on my dad's side, it was a much slower process, where the repetitive conversations weren't as bad. They were there, but it was every couple of hours rather than every 10 minutes. Not long after that, my grandmother died suddenly of a heart attack. Nothing to do with the dementia. But this unfortunately spiraled my granddad. He stopped eating properly. He started drinking more. He didn't really get dressed or knew what time of day it was. I started seeing him more because of that. Ended up going to hospital and then somehow managed to catch COVID while he was there. He managed to pull through, which was amazing. But unfortunately, because he'd been in the hospital for so long at that point, he'd cognitively just gone more and more and more downhill. And I got a message from Dad saying, I think you need to come and see him. And I knew that was going to be the time that we said goodbye, because he'd wasted away. When you asked like what the full story was and what my relationship was with dementia and Alzheimer's, like I was fully in tears. Like that was not a good idea that early on. I hope it keeps getting cooler.
Temperature's so much better than this morning.
Yeah, it's still bad though. And then back down to the bottom, and then back up to the top. Yep. Thank you.
I'll stick that in the cooler.
Thank you. Right.
So how many have you done now?
God.
This was going to be the third one, I think.
So 13.
13.
This is 13th, yeah. So we're moving into lap 16 now, rep 16, coming up to 13,000 feet. I'm not gonna lie to you, I knew I'd get cooked on this ride, but I thought it would be a bit later. I think the amount of pollen and the heat this morning has just like speeded things up a bit, well, everything apart from me. The moment that people started turning up was a bit of a change in my head, because like on one of the reps that I started coming up, I noticed that there was more people that were there in that lay-by. Ricky Feather was there, Jack Kingston was there, and my mum and my dad, Annie was there, and it was one of those feelings where it's not quite relief, but you suddenly feel like there's people with you that are there to help you get through it. I thought it might wind me up. I thought having people around me and like, not necessarily forcing conversation, but asking, how's it going? How are you feeling? How many more have you got to do? Like all those kinds of questions that make you question what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how much longer you're going to be riding for. How many more feet have you got to climb? And it was the complete opposite. Like the moment that I had people there talking to me, it just reinstated everything that I wanted to feel. It really like echoed in my head how important it was what we were doing that day. The reps stopped feeling like reps, and then before I knew it, it started approaching into the evening, and that's when everyone had finished work, and I had the whole team of Restrap basically turn up at Holme Moss, who had all ridden over after they'd finished, and they were at the top of the climb, and it was just such a weird feeling seeing them all waiting there.
Woo! You go, girl! You go play Coco!
That's it, this feed's good. That's it. No.
So after a few laps with the work guys, evening started coming in, everyone had to go home, light was fading, it was a work night after all. Yeah, basically plunged into the night shift.
Thanks a lot for coming, guys.
It felt not lonely, but much more lonely. I still had my mum and dad and Annie and Emily there. There was a camera thrown in my face a few times, and it was definitely the low after the high. So by the time the sun set, I'd been going for just over 12 hours. It was definitely a lot later than I'd wanted it to be, and I still had a long way to go. Good morning.
Good morning.
My knees stopped working and my feet stopped working about 6 laps ago. Yeah. Bye bye. Media started to pick up on it, and it felt like it blew up around social media.
Our next guest has just completed his own challenge. Alex Dyson has just ridden up one of Yorkshire's steepest hills, Holme Moss in Huddersfield, a massive 36 times. That's the equivalent of the height of Mount Everest, all for a very good cause.
So it was all for awareness of dementia and to raise as much money as I could while creating, hopefully, a lovely film in memory of my grandparents. Yeah. So this whole effort, this Everesting, has all been a fundraiser for Alzheimer's Society. The fundraiser's still live. I think we've made $2.5 grand at this point, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, it's still live.